How to keyframe your audio in DaVinci Resolve. You know, keyframing your audio is very important if you need your audio to have volume changes as your track plays. You know, sometimes you want it louder, sometimes you want it quieter, and you can do that with keyframes, and it's very easy to do just by holding down Alt and clicking to create a keyframe. So we'll head in here and check out how we could use this. All right, so keyframing our audio. Now, before we get to our keyframes, we first need to understand how we can adjust our audio here in DaVinci Resolve. So we can actually do this in two different ways. You can adjust your audio on a per track basis. So that means, say, all of the audio on track 1 here. So absolutely everything can be affected by our fader movements here on our audio 1 track, right? So we can do this on a per track basis. If I turn this down, doesn't matter how loud any of our individual clips are, it's of course going to be affected by the movements of this fader, right? And then we can adjust our audio on a per clip basis, okay? So instead of adjusting the audio on the entire track, adjust it per clip. And that means I could head in here and adjust the clip volume for this clip separately from this clip and separately from this clip here, right? So just hover about in the center of any audio clip and get your double arrows and click and drag, and you can change the volume of that individual clip, okay? Same for any of your audio clips, just click and drag. You can also just select an audio clip, head up to your inspector and change the volume right there, as you can see. Select another clip and change the volume right there, as you can see, or select a bunch of clips, just, marquee select all of those and click and drag and change all of them at the same time. Reset those volumes to 0 with that button right there. And now we'll head in and look at keyframes. Okay, so now that we know how to adjust our volume either on a per track basis or per clip basis, now we can use keyframes to adjust the level of the audio as our track plays. Now, as I mentioned up top, to add a keyframe, it's really easy. So just hover over that center line, hold down Alt and click, and there is your keyframe. Now, one keyframe isn't going to do you any good, so you need to have at least 2. Alt, click. Now we have 2 keyframes, grab one and adjust that volume. Alt, click, add another one, pull that one up, and now our audio goes down in level and then up in level, okay? So let's use that Alt click to add a keyframe. I can also click the keyframe and just choose delete. Let's use that in a real world scenario. So now we have this sort of, admittedly sort of a cheesy next supermodel competition here, right? So let's listen to this here.
Do you have what it takes to become America's next?
So we can't really hear the dialogue here in our, in our fake commercial. So let's go ahead and use our keyframes to essentially duck out our music bed out of the way so we can actually hear the dialogue. To do that, super easy. So about here's where the dialogue starts. I'm going to add a keyframe about there, I believe, and then another keyframe about here. Okay. Then let's come down to the end of our dialogue track, and we want the volume to go back up after our dialogue is over. So we'll add a keyframe here, just Alt click, and then a keyframe here. All right. Now we have 4 keyframes. 1, 2, 3, 4. So because we have 4 keyframes, I can just grab right in the middle here and adjust that entire area and pull that entire level down. Okay. So I want this down to say -20 or so, pretty close. And listen to that.
Do you have what it takes to become America's next supermodel?
And it goes back up. Now, if that transition is a little too fast, no big deal. You can always come in here and just grab your keyframes, stretch them out, make it fade up slower, etc., etc.
America's next supermodel.
Just Alt click, Alt click, Alt click. Super simple. Boom. Pull that down, duck it out of the way.
All new episodes.
A little too quiet. Pull it up.
All new episodes starting January 15th.
Okay, so that's one example of using our keyframes in a real world scenario, is to duck out background audio so your dialogue can come through. Another thing that you might do, so here we have a dialogue track and a music backing track that's going to rise up in volume, like this is the end of a video and there's the climax to the logo outro, right?
Just that easy here in DaVinci Resolve.
But of course, we can't hear the dialogue because the music overall is too loud. So let's start with turning down the volume of our track, again in here or in the inspector, however you prefer to do it. Check that out. And keyframes to your audio tracks is just that. That's not bad. I kind of want this down a little bit more. Easy here in DaVinci Resolve. Very good, but now we need the music to come up. So in this case, easy here in DaVinci. So when this drop hits, easy here in DaVinci Resolve. I think that's about where I want to start my fade up in level. Easy here, about there. So we'll alt click it here, and then we'll alt click about at the end of when our dialogue stops, and then I'll just grab this keyframe here and pull it up. So in this case, we only need 2 keyframes. Pull it up to say about -9 or so, -10. We should have it. Just that easy here in DaVinci Resolve. Right, pretty cool. So you can also, by the way, add your keyframes within your inspector. So we can open this up and say, click your keyframe right there, pull your playhead forward, maybe add another keyframe here, then adjust the level, the volume of that. And you can add your keyframes like this as well, if you prefer. Pull that up, pull that down, etc., etc. All right, so that is using your keyframes here, your audio keyframes here in DaVinci Resolve. You can also use them over here in Fairlight as well. Same, the same way. You can also alt click over here, add your keyframes. You can click on a keyframe, press delete to delete that keyframe, etc., etc. Now, before we go, I want to show you one more thing you can do to affect your audio in sort of the same way as using a keyframe, but not actually using keyframes. Let me reset all of that. And I guess we can use this clip here. It doesn't really matter. So first we're going to start with our audio backing track down to about where we want it for this part. Tracks is just that easy here in DaVinci Resolve. So instead of adding a keyframe this time, we're going to do this an old school way and actually just add a cut here. So we're going to cut our audio and essentially make a new clip. Then we're going to raise the volume up for this part. And if we play back right now, it's not going to sound very good. Resolve. All right, it just instantly gets louder. But what we can do is come over to our effects library, audio transitions, and just grab yourself a crossfade, throw that on there, and adjust your edit points however you need. Resolve. Let me grab this edit point right in the middle here. Let me roll this back. Essentially, I want the end of the crossfade to be at about this edit point. Okay, so that should be pretty good. In DaVinci Resolve. So that is adjusting your volume and using keyframes on your audio tracks here in DaVinci Resolve.